I didn't think I was the type of woman who could ever do something like this. When we arrived at the resort, everything was perfect, or it was supposed to be. I just married a man who adored me. The ceremony had been beautiful, our families happy, the whole thing tied together with fairy lights and champagne. Everyone kept telling us how lucky we were, and for a little while, I believed it. The sun was just setting over the water when we checked in. I remember the way the light hit the pool outside our room, how it looked like something out of a dream. He held my hand, kissed my cheek, told me he couldn't wait to spend the rest of our lives together. I smiled back and tried to feel everything I thought I should feel: excitement, passion, joy. But somewhere inside, I felt off. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the weight of expectations settling into my bones. Or maybe, deep down, I already knew. The first 2 days were fine, nice even. We did all the typical honeymoon things: snorkeling, lounging by the pool, late night room service. He was attentive, sweet, almost too sweet. I found myself tuning him out more than once while he talked about our future, about kids, mortgage plans, family holidays. His voice would drift, and I'd just nod along, pretending. On the third night, he got a migraine and told me to go down to the bar without him. I didn't want to go at first. I really didn't. But he insisted. "You should enjoy yourself," he said. "I'll be fine." So I went, just for a drink, just for a little while. It was one of those open-air bars with dim lighting and a slow breeze. The kind of place that plays soft music no one really listens to. I sat at the end of the bar, ordered something sweet, and watched the ice melt in my glass. That's when he sat down next to me. I noticed him right away. Tall, kind of rugged, like the type of guy who never has to try too hard. He had that lazy confidence about him, like he was just passing through life on his own terms. He smiled at me, and I smiled back, automatically. I didn't even think about it. He asked where I was from. I lied. Said I was from a few towns over, here for a solo trip. I didn't mention the ring still warm on my finger or the husband resting upstairs in a dark room. It was harmless, I told myself. Just small talk with a stranger. But he didn't feel like a stranger. He bought me a second drink, then a third. I should have stopped. I didn't. There was something in the way he looked at me, like he saw straight through the version of myself I'd been performing. Like he knew I was restless, bored, maybe even a little lonely. We talked about books, about music, about traveling, about nothing. I laughed too loudly. I touched his arm once, I think, without even realizing it. And then he leaned in closer, not enough to make a move, but enough for me to feel it. That pull, that shift in the air when something changes, even if no one says it out loud. I felt my breath catch, and for one long second, I didn't pull away. I didn't know what I was doing, or maybe I did, but that's when I heard the phone ring in my purse, his name on the screen, glowing, my husband, calling to check on me. I blinked, pulled back, apologized, told the guy I had to go. He didn't stop me, just gave me a look like he understood more than he should have, and then turned back to his drink. I walked out of that bar with shaky hands, trying to convince myself that I hadn't done anything wrong. Not yet. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed next to my husband, eyes wide open in the dark, listening to his breathing. He'd taken something for his headache and passed out early, completely unaware that I'd come back to the room with my heart pounding and my thoughts tangled like wet sheets. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the man at the bar. His face, the way his eyes lingered on mine, the way his voice dipped when he leaned in, like he was saying something more than just words. I kept replaying everything, his hand resting near mine on the bar, the way I laughed when he said I didn't look like someone who traveled alone, how easy it had been to lie, and how I didn't want the night to end when it did. I didn't recognize myself. Back home, I was the steady one, the responsible one. I planned our wedding to the last detail, made sure the guest list didn't offend any aunts or old friends. I'd been with my husband for almost 4 years before we got married. We'd been high school sweethearts who drifted apart in college and then found our way back to each other in our 20s. It was supposed to be a full circle love story. Everyone thought we were perfect. He thought we were perfect. But sometimes love gets so comfortable that you start mistaking it for something else, like safety, like a soft cage you built for yourself and forgot to leave the door open. When I met him again, my husband, I told myself this was the right choice. He was kind. He listened. He loved me so much it scared me. I figured maybe that was enough. Passion came and went, right? Who cared if the chemistry had cooled down years ago? We were adults now. People settled. That's what I told myself. But the man at the bar, he didn't know any of that. And maybe that's what made it so tempting. He didn't see me as someone's wife, someone's old love. He saw me as a mystery, and I liked that. The next morning, I tried to shake it off. My husband felt better, and we made plans to go kayaking in the cove just past the beach. I told myself to focus, to be present, to enjoy this time with the man I'd just married. And I tried. I really did. But while we were paddling through the clear water, him laughing and splashing, I found my eyes drifting toward the shore, toward the direction of the bar, wondering if he'd be there again, if I'd see him. And that scared me more than anything. That night, we went to a fancy dinner at the rooftop restaurant. My husband dressed up, said all the right things, told me I looked beautiful. And for a second, I believed it. I smiled, drank my wine, held his hand across the table, but the tension was back, that low hum under my skin that wouldn't go away. After dinner, he said he was tired again, and I offered to walk a bit by myself before coming back. I told him I needed to clear my head. He didn't ask questions. I didn't mean to go to the bar. I swear I didn't. I told myself I was just walking. But my feet carried me there anyway. And there he was. Same seat. Same drink. Like he'd never left. He looked up and smiled like he'd been waiting for me. I was wondering if you'd come back, he said. I didn't answer. Just sat down. We talked again. This time, longer. Deeper. He told me he worked in construction back in Oregon, took time off after a bad breakup, and ended up here on a last-minute vacation. Said he liked the quiet. Said he didn't usually talk to strangers in bars either, and I believed him. We talked about things I hadn't said out loud in years, dreams I'd let go of, things I used to care about. He asked what I wanted out of life, and I didn't know how to answer. No one had asked me that in a long time. Not really. I told him I'd just gotten married. I don't even know why. I think I wanted to see how he'd react. He didn't flinch, just nodded slowly and said, "So that's why you looked like you were trying to disappear last night." That line hit me harder than I expected. There was something about him, how he saw through everything, how he didn't try to impress me, just spoke like he was reading a page from a book I forgot I wrote. He didn't touch me, he didn't need to. The tension between us was louder than anything else in that bar. I told myself I needed to leave again, that I shouldn't stay a second longer, but I didn't move. We just sat there, the space between us shrinking with every word. At one point, he leaned in close, closer than before, and I could feel his breath when he spoke. "You don't look like someone who's happy," he said softly. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but nothing came out, and then my phone buzzed again. Another message from my husband. "Still walking?" I showed it to him without thinking. He glanced at it, then looked at me with something that felt like sympathy, or maybe warning. "You should go," he said. His voice was gentle, but firm, and I did. This time I didn't look back, but I knew I wasn't done. I didn't recognize the version of myself I was becoming, and somehow that made me want to chase her more. It's strange how quickly something innocent can shift into something dangerous without any official line being crossed. I hadn't kissed him, I hadn't touched him, but somehow it already felt like I'd betrayed everything I'd built with the man sleeping beside me each night. The next morning, I woke up early, before sunrise. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling fan slowly spinning above us. My husband was curled into me, one arm draped lazily across my waist. I listened to the rhythm of his breathing and felt a guilt so heavy it almost crushed me. I told myself again that it wasn't too late to pull back, to reset, to just be the wife I had promised to be. But deep down, I knew something had shifted inside me. And it wasn't just about him, the stranger at the bar. It was about everything I had ignored for years. The way I'd convinced myself that comfort meant happiness, that being chosen was enough. That day, I stayed with my husband. We went for a boat tour along the coast, took pictures, laughed at some birds stealing fruit from a guest's table. I even let myself believe for a few hours that I could still salvage this, that maybe the knot in my chest was just temporary. But he started talking again about starting a family, buying a house near his parents, how I could maybe quit my job to focus on the home. His voice was kind, full of plans he thought we were both dreaming of. And I smiled. I nodded. And inside, something broke. Because none of it felt like mine anymore. I couldn't see myself in any of it. By the time night came, I already knew I'd go back to the bar. I waited until my husband drifted off to sleep after dinner, the soft murmur of the TV in the background, his hand resting on my thigh like a quiet promise. I slipped out with a weak excuse, said I forgot to pick up sunscreen from the shop near the lobby. He barely stirred. When I stepped outside, the air was warm, but carried that hint of salt and something almost electric. The resort was quiet. Soft lights glowed along the walkways. Everything looked untouched, peaceful. You'd never know a storm was growing in my chest. And there he was again, at the bar, like he was a permanent fixture now, like he belonged to the nights I kept stumbling into. He looked up when he saw me. No smile this time, just a slow nod and that same familiar look in his eyes like he already knew I wouldn't stay away. "I thought you weren't coming back," he said, voice lower than usual. "I wasn't," I replied. "I wasn't supposed to." We didn't speak for a while. He just ordered another drink, slid it toward me without asking what I wanted. And I took it without protest. It wasn't about the drink. It never was. We sat there, both quiet, the tension coiling tighter with every passing minute. I could feel it in my stomach, in my fingertips, that slow, magnetic pull between two people who know they're on the edge of something reckless and real. Finally, he broke the silence. "Why are you here?" I looked at him, and for once, I didn't have an answer lined up. "I don't know," I said. He didn't push, just stared out at the ocean like he understood exactly what I meant. "I've been trying to forget her," he said after a while. "The woman I came here to get over." "What happened?" He hesitated, then said, "She got tired of me not knowing what I wanted, so she found someone who did." I blinked slowly, letting the words sink in. "Ironic," I said, "because I'm here trying to remember what I want." We both laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was the only thing keeping the tension from snapping in half. And then something happened. He reached out, not to touch me, not quite, but his hand brushed against mine, barely there, just enough to light a fuse. And I didn't move. I should have, but I didn't. "I don't want to mess up your life," he said quietly. "You're not," I whispered. That part already happened. We were inches apart now, breathing the same air, hearts pounding loud enough to drown out the ocean. His lips parted like he might say something else, but then he stopped. Instead, he leaned in slowly, not rushing it, giving me the chance to pull away. And for one terrifying, beautiful moment, I almost didn't. Our foreheads touched, just lightly. I closed my eyes, my whole body tensed, ready for the fall. But it didn't happen. He pulled back, looked at me like he was saying goodbye before either of us even made a choice. "You should go," he said again. This time it sounded like it hurt him to say it. I stood, legs shaky, mind a blur. I didn't say anything. I just left. But the worst part? As I walked back through the dark corridors of the resort, my skin still tingling from how close we'd been, I wasn't relieved. I was disappointed. I didn't go back to the bar the next night. I couldn't. I couldn't risk it again. Not because I didn't want to, but because I did. Too much. The moment we almost kissed kept replaying in my head like some kind of punishment I couldn't escape. Every blink of his eyes, the way his breath slowed when I leaned in. The tension in my chest that made my heart ache in ways I hadn't felt in years. Back in our room, my husband had no idea. He laughed as he scrolled through pictures of us on his phone. He talked about how fun it would be to come back next year for our anniversary, maybe with a group of friends. He asked if I liked the new gold bracelet he'd surprised me with that morning. I told him I loved it, but something in me had gone silent. Not broken, just quiet. Like a wire had been cut and now everything was still. I tried to bury the memory of that night. I thought if I just poured myself into my marriage again, maybe it would undo the damage, even if only in my mind. I made love to my husband that night, more urgently than I'd expected. I kissed him deeper. I held on longer. But it wasn't healing anything. It felt like covering a wound with glitter. The next day, I saw him again. Not at the bar, not where I expected him. He was sitting on the edge of the pool, fully clothed, looking out across the water like he was trying to forget the exact same thing I was. He didn't look up when I passed, but I felt him see me. I kept walking. My legs were trembling. I wasn't even sure why. But that night, I cracked. I told myself I needed to get some air, that the room felt stuffy, that maybe I wanted to see the stars, just for a bit. My husband was in the shower. I didn't wait for him to get out. I walked down the path slowly, unsure where I was going until I ended up on the beach. And there he was. Of course, like the ocean had delivered him just for me. He was sitting on a driftwood log, barefoot, a bottle of something resting between his legs. He didn't even seem surprised to see me. I didn't say anything as I sat next to him. We stared at the waves for a long time. I wasn't going to come out tonight, I finally said. I wasn't either, he replied. He handed me the bottle. I took a sip. The silence between us wasn't awkward anymore. It was something else. Like a thread tying us together, tight and invisible. He looked at me then. Really looked. His voice was low. Does he know? I shook my head. Nothing happened. That's not what I asked. I blinked, my mouth suddenly dry. No, I whispered. He doesn't. He leaned closer, not touching me, but close enough that I felt the heat from his skin. I thought if I saw you again, he murmured, I'd know how to handle it. But I don't. I closed my eyes. This wasn't supposed to happen, I said, barely audible, but it did. His hand reached over slowly, deliberately, and this time he did touch mine. Fingers laced lightly, barely there, but it felt like a firestorm. And still, I didn't pull away. We sat like that for minutes or hours. I couldn't tell anymore. The waves crashed louder, the wind picked up, cool against my burning cheeks. And then I made a mistake. I turned to him, our eyes locked, and just like that, gravity. He leaned in. So did I. It wasn't fast. It wasn't frantic. It was slow, like we both knew exactly what we were doing. And the second his lips touched mine, the world blurred. It wasn't wild. It was terrifyingly gentle, like he was afraid to break me. And I let him kiss me, fully, deeply, like I had been waiting years just for that moment. I don't know how long it lasted, but when we pulled apart, I was shaking. He looked at me, eyes darker now, searching mine for something I couldn't give. I have to go, I whispered. Don't, he said. But I stood. I ran barefoot through the sand, through the palm-lined paths, heart pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. When I got back to our suite, the lights were off. I thought maybe he'd gone to bed, until I opened the door and saw him, sitting in the chair by the balcony, silent, awake, staring right at me. My breath caught. He didn't speak, didn't even blink, but in his hands was my phone, unlocked. My chest froze. My knees went weak. I'd left it on the dresser earlier, I realized. The text, the one I'd sent him the day before, the one I never deleted. My husband just sat there, still, quiet, watching me like he was seeing me for the first time. And in that moment, I knew. He knew everything. And I had no idea what was about to happen next.